CopyRoslynFilesToOutputFolder task is now more tolerant to file locking. File locking. Okay. After build instead of prepare for build. We'll trust him. Merge to dev branch, removing unnecessary closing brace in the query editor template. Correct. That's good. Update media-library-picker-admin. Update. Yeah, that it was a fix. Yeah, he found an issue. It was a fix for the style. And there are many more PRs coming from Hermes and Matteo. That's good. Orchard.2. Orchard.2 7 days ago. CPK on workflow. This is updating YesSql for bugs. Oh, probably bugs I found while I demoed something to you last week. Correct, the true, yeah, when it was the parameter colon true, it wasn't working, so I fixed it. Yep, and there was another exception which I fixed also, so that's good. Then CPK on workflow, throwing away throw and TryCatch tasks. That's so good. Less code, less maintenance. All these files can't carry bugs anymore. So beautiful. Fix some issues with when using custom menu items. Yeah, he found some issues from feedback that when editing menu items, it will create a new menu item instead of updating it. Also, there was an issue with the editor, so this is fixed. And this is fixed too. Okay, good. That was bug report, so that was good. Now it works. This is Nick Guerra. Can't remember. Oh yes, Nick Guerra is a dev in the .NET Core team, and they are working on performance for build, and for sure they are using Orchard for stress testing the perf improvements they do. And they found an issue in the projects or the targets files that we are using for the modules that can optimize the things a lot. I think it was using 1 minute and 20 seconds to build before, and now it's using 40 seconds with this change. The idea is that there is a feature in MS Build that will detect that the project hasn't changed and won't ask to rebuild it. And because of our targets file, it was not using this feature, so he updated the targets file to optimize that. Because we are generating some static files in the project which didn't change actually, but will trigger the project to be updated, and then it will rebuild the project while it didn't need to rebuild it. So he optimized that. That's good. So this is CPK on workflow. This is gently merging a fix on the ModuleEmbeddedFileProvider. And that was not working if you had 2 slashes in the URL. Then duplicate MicrosoftAspNetCorePackageVersion. So this is a PR duplicated tag in the file. This is Jean-Thierry on the background tasks, which we are currently designing. It's still waiting for me, but we are looking into that could be some topics. That could be some topics. If people have designing the background tasks. CPK workflow. This is a PR which has been merged later. We'll see. Kevin has been merged. Add an OpenID background task responsible for removing orphaned tokens. So this is a pruning background task. So if you have authentication tokens and they are no more. What's the name? They are crap. What's the name? They are when it's too long. Like your milk is expired. When they are expired, they are still in database. So this background task will clean them. So tokens pruning. So that's good. Then Jean-Thierry on background tasks and other things. We'll see. Zipk design to configuration rename. What are you doing? Oh, yeah. What is that? Oh, I see. This is the old PR that you don't like the word design and you want to change it by configuration. Okay, let's.
Yeah, but I don't know what I changed there. That it's just.
Maybe you merged dev into this one, so all the changes that have been applied to dev in the meantime.
Oh, yeah, and I think I did that through the GitHub UI.
That's fine. That will be the same result.
Yep.
Because it's a merge commit that contains all the changes from dev since you created this branch.
Yep.
That's a lot. Jean-Thierry. Optimizing, so modular page application model finder. I think it's the branch where he's sharing view components across different modules. He's working a lot. I'm not sure he's got a job actually. I should ask him if he's on unemployment now. Pre-order modules, yeah, that's the branch. Another branch to fix another bug, circular dependency in modules. Unknown, some unknown person probably named Nick Main, correct? He's working on JSON API. He's not here, I assume. Okay. What else on Thierry? Zipk on workflow. Adding content and read and Zipk. I understand your comment on my comment about HTTP and security, and I get why you need a get now. So we'll talk later about it.
Okay.
Okay, I just select it so that when he watches the meeting tomorrow or in the next days, he will see that. He will appreciate. Okay, but I can talk about it actually. Zipk, view components, circular dependency, so the branches is working on. Fixing parsing issues, so you found a bug and I merged it. It's merged. Fixing media processing in tenants. Apparently, media resizing was broken with tenants since we accepted the Azure PR, which is weird because it's been a long time and nobody saw that, or nobody's using tenants. That's weird. But I tried and yes, it was broken, so this fixed it. Adding resource documentation for custom scripts. So this morning someone on Gitter asked, how do I do that? And I'm like, it's in the documentation. And guess what? It was not in the documentation, but I found a template. Then I added the template into the documentation. This way there is documentation. The idea is, how do you, from a view, add some script in a specific script section using the resource manager. So there was a sample to do it by code, but not from a template. And I use tag helper for that. So script at foot, and everything you write here will be in the footer script of the layout. Okay, resource management, beautiful. Tag helpers. So that's it. Questions? Next is that someday before next year, maybe we'll merge workflows. We'll see when Zipk is done with adding more activities.
I am pretty much done with the workflow. There's yeah, just
there's
when you're
always
done
just
reviewing.
something. Well, I'm waiting for you to.
I did. Okay, so what I will do, I will go over everything. Now, there's one comment that that you made a while ago about the little experiment with registering activities as using options.
Yep, that's good. You can't forget it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to refer that and just use the service container, and then I'm going to clean up anything that I find, and then I'll send you a message that I think it's ready.
Okay. And I will test it and look at the code everywhere.
Yeah.
And probably do some changes, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there
That's
will be
good.
some changes.
There is so many code, so much code, like 400 files, something like that. That there has to be some comments somewhere. Okay. So workflows, viewComponents will be merged soon. Circular dependencies also. Just a few small review, but the issue with this answer is that when it creates a PR, then there are 20 commits after the PR started, because it's never done with these changes and improving. So we never know when we can merge it. And I think that on the JSON API, I don't know. We'll see. Fixing build. Interesting. Maybe some breaking changes in the project. We'll see. Yeah, these are the big rocks to merge. Okay, background tasks. So first, get versus post. So I put a comment on C because, and that's interesting because that's something that I think is interesting. So let me open what C has done to show you. Pull request, workflows. And the comment I wrote is wrong, but I will explain you why. Nones. No, there is no comments here with nones. Or maybe it's hidden. So if I look there, what controller was it?
It's not hidden. It's the workflow controller.
Yeah, but I can't find the word nones.
Look for token.
It's hidden. Maybe not this one. Yes, you see this one. Okay. So if I look at the code here, can I see this file? Okay, this one. Here, yes, I see start. Okay, well, I think I'm right. We'll see which one. I see start. So it's an action on the controller, workflow controller, that's called start. And obviously start will change some state. And because it's changing some state, so what does it do? Get workflow definition from the workflow ID, probably looking for the starting activity, start workflow async, done. Yes, okay, that's bad. No, I think it's wrong. So it's a start action, so it will start a workflow from a definition and from an activity. I don't know what it's called, but because it's changing some state, it should be a post to prevent from anyone creating a script that if you go on the page, then will start the workflow automatically because you just browsed a page. And because this page can have JavaScript and make you just send a request to this thing using JavaScript, then that's bad. And why do you say it can't be? a post. So who is calling that? That's the question.
Is that an Excel question or?
Yes.
Okay. So start can be called by anyone, and one example scenario is when you want to call this from Postman, for example, or from GitHub webhooks or any other HTTP client, is if you have a workflow that has a starting activity of type HTTP request, which is an event, which allows you to basically
yeah, stop here. That's fine. So that's wrong. That's wrong. Definitely wrong. So first from Postman, if you just allow that because you want to be able from Postman to send requests, you're opening your entry door to anyone because you want the postman to just deliver some mail, okay? Without him to have to enter. That's exactly that.
Not well. It's not completely that. That's one scenario, but it's the same as if you would implement a controller in a module, and that controller executes something or it returns a value.
But here,
and this is the main difference here is that instead of implementing it as a controller, you implement it as a workflow, which is it's a visual programming language. And I agree, it does change state because it does create a workflow instance.
So you don't want
but that's the the vehicle by which the code executes.
So the solution here, so let's forget about Postman and for GitHub, for instance. The solution is that you explicitly, so in these cases, you either accept a get and a nonce, a SAS token, so a token that proves that the user that calls the get has the right to call this thing, or you use a post and you use and you don't invalidate the anti-forgery token. In this case, okay, let's allow a get call, because maybe GitHub requires a get call, but I'm not even sure.
No, GitHub performs a post.
So you should accept a post here.
Well, and that's just GitHub. What if I want to implement a simple web page, but then execute some logic?
Then you need an nonce, so that this web page will have to get a link to this thing. It should not build the link. It should get a link, and the link should be created from something that will deliver, or that will create a SAS token for that. The same way you could accept get for GitHub. So when you are in the application, there is a way to say, oh, get the URL to execute this workflow definition, or to execute this activity, whatever it is. Is it from the activity? Is it from the workflow definition? I don't care, but it needs to be able to generate a link that you can safely share with someone. And this action will read the SAS token that the URL was getting, and then we'll know that it can be called using a get because it has the nonce.
I get that, but I'm wondering, why does this need to be secured with SAS tokens and other controllers?
Example. Give me one example that changes some state and is a get, and then I will file an issue to say we need to fix it. But give me one example.
Well, the workflow doesn't have to change state if it just executes and it doesn't persist anything.
Okay.
For example, let's say you have logic that determines whether to go to page A or page B, but I want to bind that against some URL that then performs this logic. Maybe it's based on a query string. I don't know. But it doesn't change state.
It can be any logic. You can run any workflow with any activity. You just have to guess a workflow definition ID, an activity or an activity ID, and then it will run it. That's super bad.
Oh, but I'm not. But isn't that a different issue where you as a workflow author, you need to be able to control whether to protect it or allow
a nonce, because the nonce will contain which ID should be executed and which activity should be executed. Because the nonce will grant an access to it. So that means you're saying that a workflow should never be allowed to execute in whatever circumstance. So even a simple get to, let's say, my home page, that should not be allowed. That should not be handled by a workflow. Never. Yes, that's cool, but that's the user's decision to do that. Here, without any user decision, you allow anyone to execute potentially any workflow. And that's the issue. Nobody ever allowed that, and you decide to allow that to anyone. That's why I'm saying you open your entry door to anyone just because you want.
I get that. No, I totally get that. I'm just wondering if with your proposal it would always be secure, but how do you then, as a workflow author, allow certain workflows to be executed by anyone?
So you don't want, no, that's different. That's different. A workflow can run from events that are triggered by the application. Here, you trigger workflow from an external user. That's different.
Well, that's my point. How do you allow a user to allow certain workflows to be always executed in response to a particular HTTP request?
With a nonce, because you share a nonce for that. You allow someone external to execute a workflow because you share the link with the nonce.
I get it. So that user, that author, would generate the nonce one way or another and distribute that.
That's what I'm saying. In the workflow definition editor, or in the workflow definition list, or in the workflow editor, you need a button that says generate me a URL to trigger this workflow. And like from GitHub, you generate a token, right? You can generate as many application token, application client tokens. Same thing, you generate a URL which is specific for a specific application or customer, which has a limited lifetime, which has a specific limited set of permissions, so nonce, a SAS token, sorry, in this URL, and you give this URL to the application or the user you want to be able to use it. And that's only it can have the URL and use it. So you know who is using it and which application. So you can even, if you want, then reject later these nonce, because if you can even create them statically, like they're stored in a database, and later say, no, I want to revoke this nonce, like for the tokens that background task I showed 10 minutes ago. You see? So, but no, so that's why you need to generate a URL. So in the case of, for instance, we use the SAS tokens like this in Orchard.Web also for emails, automatic emails in workflows. You send an email when a content item has been created as draft, and you send an email to someone to approve, to publish. So the click on the email link is a GET, and it will change the state on the server of the content item. Well, this link has a nonce, so that only the receiver of this email is able to click the link and will open the door to publishing the content item. Same thing. It's a GET, so it has a nonce.
Yeah, okay. Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And this way, otherwise, imagine you go to veryevil.com website, and this guy knows that, or will try to execute a list of HTTP GET requests to a website on this endpoint from your browser. So using your cookies, using all your authentication to a specific workflow endpoint and trying all the IDs and all the activity ID, and we'll just start workflows. And maybe one of them is publishing content that should not be published and will be visible. One of them might be sending emails that you don't want people to receive. So you never know. That's why you don't allow that. So what you can do in this case, when you want to expose URLs like this, actions like this out in the public, then you accept that it's on just the outside and not from your application, just accept the GET with the nonce.
So should we maybe always, in the case of a GET, always require a SAS token, but in case of a post, it should either have an anti-forgery token or a SAS token?
If it's from your application, then you can accept a post with anti-forgery token and user authentication.
Yeah, so this controller would check for either one or the other, because it can't know whether the URL is generated from the application or not.
Yes, but do you have the case in your application that you want to start, that you are calling this action from the application? Maybe, yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. If it's just from the outside.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there will be scenarios where you want to trigger workflows from the UI generated by this application.
But don't forget the authentication then. And if it's just from the outside, just get a GET. That will be fine. GET with the nonce. So that's the ID. And I'm not sure it was the only one I saw here. Resume. You see
there's resume and there's start. Yeah, that should have the same security.
That's the first thing that all security researcher will do. They have bots that will check all the actions in your code, if it's open source, or all the links in the website. Try to send a get and see if it's changing some state, and if it does, then there is a big issue usually.
So you're saying you're a bot?
Because you can just fill up, do some DDoS attack, because you can just fill up the database of the website very quickly, because there is no, and you can create a website that will be used by lots, or an ad that will be used by lots of users at the same time, that will all target this endpoint on your site and put the site down, because database will be filled up like so quickly. You see what I mean?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Or that will be able to find which UID and activity ID exist by looking at the result that you get from this get. And then the attacker will know all your UIDs and activity ID, and maybe will try, oh, let's start one, because I know them now. Or we'll try to, you can do so many things with that. That's why you need to protect them.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because that way, with your proposal, it's protected and we can still allow those GET requests.
Yep.
The key solution is to allow the user to generate a URL pointing to a workflow, or to trigger a workflow.
Mm-hmm. The same thing when you use Azure Storage. You want to expose a blob to someone. It's private by default, but you say generate a SAS URL, and you get the URL to the blob with a SAS token that is time limited and with permissions inside. So when the service gets the URL, and also which blob it can access. So you know that this token was generated specifically for that. So you need to embed in the SAS token the data that you want to secure, so that when you decrypt it, then you know, oh, this URL is valid for this ID and this activity, so I can run that. So technically, you don't even need the activity ID and workflow definition ID if you use the nonce, because the nonce is the encrypted.
Contains that data. Yeah, that makes sense.
Good. It's not even interesting. You have to hide those parameters and let them just flow in the nonce. Yep. Okay. So that was the deathmatch, not deathmatch. My God. So for the update on 1.10.3, I think Benedek is working on it, and Janos will ping him for sure tomorrow at work to see where we are with 1.10.3, because Benedek was apparently just working on the dynamic compilation and then try to ship 1.10.3. He hasn't joined the meeting since then, so I don't know. So that's it for get post. And also, if you find examples in the code that don't follow that, then we need to fix it before someone files a security issue. Background tasks, design to configuration. Yeah, design to configuration. So there is an old PR here. That people don't like. It's not configuration right now. It's called design. Okay, because in a meeting a year ago we decided how it should be organized, and we decided, oh, it should be called design and not configuration. And then Sipke arrived and said, why is that configuration? I was not at that meeting. I disagree. I want it to be configuration and not design. And Antoine also says, also prefer configuration. And I pointed to the meeting, maybe at the exact location. Isham also says what he wants, because design, usually people see design as the UI, even though in this case, when we made up this name, it was more like software design, and not just UI. So like everyone is confused, but the ones who decided for the term. What's your opinion, guys? Should we accept this PR?
Well, I've been using Orchard Core for a short while now, and I'm still confused. Whenever I try to enable a feature, I'm searching, and then I realize, oh yeah, it's design. Just saying that it's, I mean, I get the argument that it's software design, it's application design, but I don't think it's intuitive.
Okay. I agree. Configuration. That's just my opinion, though. Design, to me, design is okay. You're designing the UI, but no configuration.
Okay. Okay, we'll change that then. Nobody is requiring to be called design, and so many people want it to be configuration. We can change it later if we want. It's not adding a new item, it's just changing a name, that's fine. So YesSql, please review your PR to see if there is any missing thing.
Okay.
And then we'll merge it. That should be easy, search for every design thing, and you can even recreate the PR if you want. It might be easier.
Yeah, maybe, just to be safe.
Because you merged everything, we don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I'll discard this one and then I'll create a new PR.
Background tasks. So YesSql and Jean-Thierry found some bug in the background tasks for reentrancy, meaning if a background task is running every minute and your task lasts more than 1 minute, then apparently, unlike what it was designed to be, the background task will re-enter the code and will run again, which is not what it was supposed to be. So they fixed the bug, but at the same time they wanted to add more things, and I'm like, wait, I wanted to redesign the thing. So before adding more features, let's see what we should change, because I'm not quite happy with how it looks like and what it does. So I thought about it, and so first there is a new concept in ASP.NET Core, I think 2.0, that provides support for background task. So we should refactor our implementation, which we made completely, to the class that ASP.NET Core implements, which is almost the same thing. So let's do that. Let's reuse what they do instead of re-implementing everything. And I think before they implemented it, they looked at what we had done in Orchard, so that's fine. But theirs is better and it's supported. So move to the new base class, let's say. It's not a base class, but same thing. Then, when I wanted to redesign background tasks, so background tasks is some code that will run in ASP.NET Core 2.0. A background task is some code that will run, that will start with the application, will run in the different thread and without HTTP context, and can run all the time or one-off. It just has to return something, but it can be an infinite loop and do some things. So it's a little bit different than us, because for us a background task is some code that is just put into the background service and that will run every minute. So when I thought about redesigning background task, I also thought about its relationship with jobs queue, because they are usually very related. When you want to do something, sometimes between a jobs queue and a background task, there might be some little differences that you want to use one or the other. And then I was like, should we have actually a single concept, like everything is a job, and maybe the job is executed every minute, and then it's like a background task. At the same time, when you think about job queue, you think, for instance, about sending emails. Like you have 1,000 emails to send, you don't want to do it in one-off, you just want to queue a list of 1,000 little jobs, and maybe some others will come and will have higher priority, and you want to process them before the others. So it's not really recurring, but a list of small tasks to do as soon as possible, okay, based on demand and possibility. But the background task is kind of different, because it's executing things on a schedule. Okay, so task like schedule. So I was thinking, so what we want also with the background task in the case of Orchard, and this is something I had already in, before this redesign, not the UI. I wanted to be able to have a UI. So the same thing, the same way we have in a jobs queue, like in Orchard 1, we can see all the jobs and pause them to say, no, just don't send it right now. We should do the same thing with background task. Like example of a background task, we have the Lucene indexing that will run continuously to find content items to index. There is the new thing, which is the tokens pruning. Okay, and it's nice to be able in the UI to see what are the actual background tasks that are running. In Orchard 1, you don't know. There is no way to know what's running, what has run, was it fine. So see all running background tasks, and also pause them maybe. See log, last execution. So if there is an issue, see why it happened. So see the log. Maybe change the frequency. The schedule. So that's also something that might be interesting. Like for instance, if we don't want to run tokens pruning every minute, but every day at a specific time, like at night when there is no user activity, because we know it's better for the website. That should be nice to be able to define it with a default when we create the task. But so that's also some idea for that. And this is where we see the relationship with the jobs queue, because we can also see all the jobs that are running or pending execution. We can maybe see the log of them. We can pause them. We can, yeah, they don't have a frequency, but we could imagine that every execution of something, even a background task, which is scheduled, could be seen as creating a job instance in a job queue to be treated. The only issue is that we don't guarantee when it will be executed, because it's just pushing something to do on a jobs queue, whereas a background task on a schedule will execute something at this schedule. So I don't think we should, actually, after some thoughts, I don't think we should merge the two of them. There might be a relationship, like being able to create job instances from a background task, for sure. Similarities by having sometimes maybe a job should, like, so I thought about something like a job definition that will also have a schedule, and on this schedule create a job instance in the job queue. Okay, so that will kind of mimic the background task, but something that should be executed but doesn't require to be run instantaneously when it's scheduled. Like, okay, like every day generate 10 emails and then process them as you can, instead of a background task which will be every day process them now. And if it adds some load on the server, that's fine. So that's that was all the ideas I had. Any comments, recommendation? I also looked at what Drupal was doing. Drupal has what was it called? They had that, and it was also related to the cron table to be able to run these jobs. I didn't see anything with background tasks like this that don't even have to run a frequency. Oh yeah, so the idea is that we could have something, actually, to simplify, that would be called scheduled background task, okay, which will be one single background task that will do a while true, an infinite loop, that will actually look at the list of let's call them cron jobs. Okay, so a cron job, so that a service will let any module register a new scheduled job. Okay, and a job is something that is serialized in database, so we can display them in the UI, and they have a cron associated. And this way we can change them from the UI, we can pause them, we can see when is the next execution, we can see what is the history of the execution, and it's one background task that will handle their execution using cron job, and anyone can create other background tasks that will do something that don't expose anything in the UI. But I think we should have a module that provides that the service and the execution of this background task to run a list of cron jobs. And that might be sufficient for all our needs to be able to expose cron jobs and manage them from the UI. So even the Lucene index could then be exposed as a cron job instead of a background task. And every job will not have to care about the schedule, and so it will just delegate all the scheduling and the UI to the background task service, and they will just say, oh, do that on by default every day, and then users can change the schedule and see the history of this thing. They will get a logger, they will get access to the result state of their execution, and yeah, that will be in the loop. It will be handled by the scheduled background task. So that will be better. So a single thing that will let us create no more background tasks, but background jobs, cron jobs. That's the idea. And this thing will, the jobs queue will then be independent, like in Orchard.One, a different module that will be a queue of things to execute with a different service. Okay. Also, the difference between a background task and a jobs queue is that usually a job in a jobs queue is something that any instance of your farm can run, like sending an email. But background tasks are linked to each instance. Unless we find a mode that when we register a cron job, we can also say like run by one instance in the farm or all instances or a set of instances. We have to see, but that will be interesting to be able to say that a job needs to be run only once for a machine. So the first machine to be able to run the background task, the background job will run it, or that all machines have to run it. Like a Lucene index has to run it on all machines, but this one has to be run on a single one. So that's something interesting. Note. Comments? Okay, everyone agrees with all I said?
Yes, it's very cool.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
There were issues in Orchard.One with background tasks. I think to be able to see the UI, pause them, see the frequency and the log will solve most of the issues. I don't remember having any issue with the jobs queue, so I assume we should do the same thing. And that's why, initially I wanted to talk about background tasks and before they start doing changes, and was looking at jobs queue in case there are some common tasks to share or things, so to include in background task instead of doing another jobs queue. But I think that they have different things. We can share some parts of the UI, but maybe it should be part of the same navigation, or the same page should show both background task and jobs queue. I don't know, we'll have to see. That's it. Other questions, comments? No news on my side otherwise, no news sites. Nope. Good. If there is no more question, no more topics.
Well,
then...
Rob asked about how many live sites with Orchard Core.
Oh, I don't know.
What's the status of the Orchard.Project.net website? It was down for maintenance.
Yes. Oh, I can explain what happened. So what happening is so because it was hosted on a Microsoft subscription since like 7 years ago when we created a project, we need to go through lots of security validation and compliance because it's an Azure service. It's listed as an Azure service, a Microsoft service. But I'm like, no, it's not a Microsoft thing. It's an Orchard community thing. Okay, so we don't have to comply with all the things that Microsoft needs, all the security and compliance things. Like to be able to change something, we will have required a custom dedicated machine to access the Azure subscription. So you have to loan a machine to do the change, and so it's very secure. Every service in Azure is very secure. So the idea was then to move Orchard subscription to the .NET Foundation. Okay, because it's a .NET Foundation project, and to do that, the migration was not straightforward because the API doesn't allow. Well, the compliance again doesn't allow a Microsoft service to be moved to a non-Microsoft subscription, okay, for compliance reasons, not to lose any data or whatever. So what I had to do was to recreate everything in the new subscription. So that's why I stopped the services and recreated it in the new subscription. That's why it was down. It was actually not down at all, I would say, because it was super smooth. And I migrated 2 sites, so the gallery.orchardproject.net, and it works. And I stopped the previous one. I didn't define a redirection on HTTPS, but there is HTTPS. This is why we created it in the first place. So HTTPS works. Yeah, there is a, yeah, it was, yeah, you need to refresh for the links to be HTTPS. No, maybe this link has an issue. Let me check. Close that. I need to add the redirection. I added it for the other website. Yeah, this one is fine. Okay, just a caching issue, I assume. And Orchard.Project.net, which it doesn't redirect to HTTPS. I was sure it. Oh no, I did a. That's weird. I did a redirection from www to HTTPS. Okay, but HTTPS is also supported now because it was not before. So that's good. And yeah, these are running on the new subscription. What I did also is because that was a lot of work to migrate all these things. I didn't migrate the Harvest website yet. Okay, we'll wait for the new Harvest site to be created to have the Harvest. It was just a list of sessions which are all on YouTube, so there was not much value in keeping it and moving it. So I have a backup. Not sure we'll use a backup. We want to use it in Orchard Core, something like this. So it's, yeah, I didn't move this. It's down for now. The Harvest website, Zipco, I'm sorry. We worked hard on this one. Yeah, that's it. So now everything is up in a new subscription. Good. I put it in West US, so it's faster for me, not for you. Faster for Asia and US, not Europe. So sad. That's it. Cool. So let's meet again next week with a nice workflow module in dev branch.
Yeah, that's a nice target. I'll fix that security breach or leak first.
Okay, thank you.